I used to believe that keeping your head down and doing the right thing would somehow protect you from life's worst betrayals. I clung to that belief the way a kid might cling to the edge of a pool before learning how to swim. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who push you in first, and then act surprised when you drown. My name is Rachel Monroe, and I'm 33 now. But this story starts long before that. It starts with my younger sister, Lana. Growing up, she wasn't just the baby of the family. She was the sun, and everything else orbited around her. Our parents never said it out loud, but the difference in how we were treated didn't need words. It showed in birthday parties, in school awards that got brushed aside, in how my small victories were greeted with polite nods, while Lana's minor accomplishments earned applause. I learned early on that if I wanted to keep something, I had to guard it. Lana had a habit of claiming what wasn't hers. Clothes, attention, even people. If I liked a band, she suddenly had their poster on her wall. If I had a close friend, she'd charm her way into the circle and nudge me aside. And somehow every time my parents would smile and say, "She just looks up to you." I started keeping a distance, not out of spite but out of survival. When I got into college out of state, I packed up and left like the building was on fire. I needed space to breathe, to figure out who I was without being compared or competed with. That was when things started to feel like mine. I studied hard, fell in love with design and branding, and finally found people who saw me for who I really was. People who didn't care what my sister did or how loud she laughed. Then there was Drew. I met him during a late-night workshop our junior year. We were both running on too much coffee and too little sleep, piecing together a presentation that neither of us had prepared for. He spilled his coffee on my laptop, panicked, and then offered to buy me dinner by way of apology. I said yes, mostly because I figured it'd be awkward not to. But that dinner turned into 4 hours of laughing over cheap pasta and shared stories about everything from our childhood pets to our biggest regrets. He wasn't flashy. He didn't talk like someone who needed to be impressive. But he listened. He remembered small details and asked questions no one else thought to ask. And slowly, almost quietly, he became the most important part of my life. After graduation, we moved to Portland and started building a life together. I opened a boutique marketing studio, and he landed a solid job with a design firm downtown. We got engaged a year later. He proposed with a simple ring during a foggy morning walk in Forest Park. There was no audience, no spectacle, just us, and it was perfect. For a long time, I felt like the universe had finally balanced the scales. Of course, that was when Lana started showing up again. She'd finished school by then, barely, and had landed some cushy pharmaceutical sales job that sounded more like a dating app with commission. She bounced from city to city, always with a new story, a new haircut, a new boyfriend. When I called to tell her about the engagement, her response was lukewarm at best. "Nice," she said. "Is he rich?" I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. I didn't plan to ask her to be my maid of honor, but our mom brought it up one evening like it was already decided. "You know she'll be hurt if you don't," she said. And it would mean so much to me. So I said yes against my better judgment. Lana showed up late to the bridal shower, wearing white of course. At the rehearsal dinner, she toasted herself more than us. She made jokes about being next in line, and flirted with Drew's friends in a way that made me uncomfortable. Still, I kept brushing it off. She was just being Lana. Always loud, always extra. I told myself that as long as Drew had my back, everything else could be ignored. And for a while it was. Our wedding was beautiful, and despite her antics, she didn't manage to steal the show. Drew whispered in my ear that night, "You're everything to me, Ray. No one else comes close." And I believed him. We spent the next few years growing together. We bought a small house with creaky floors and a garden Drew took too seriously. I threw myself into work, and he was supportive through every campaign launch and deadline. We had our moments, arguments about money, schedules, future plans, but nothing that felt unfixable. But then slowly things started to change. It began with little things. Drew staying late more often. His phone always face down. Passwords changed without mention. He was distracted, distant. When I asked if something was wrong, he blamed work. Said he was stressed. That he needed space to think. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the doubt settled in like fog. Thick, quiet, creeping in around the edges. One day, I noticed a long strand of blonde hair on his coat. It wasn't mine. And it definitely wasn't from work. His office was full of guys and two older women with short hair. I brushed it off at first, but then it happened again. And again. Lana had long blonde hair. I hated myself for even thinking it. But once the suspicion took root, it wouldn't let go. I started watching more closely. Phone records. Locations. Even the tone in his voice when he said her name at a family gathering. It wasn't what he said, it was the way he said it. Careful. Too casual. Then came my birthday. Drew had been distant for weeks. I hoped the dinner might change something, maybe remind him of what we had. My parents booked a reservation at a little place I loved. The kind with dim lighting and brick walls and rosemary bread that melted in your mouth. I got dressed slowly that night, choosing the blue wrap dress he always complimented. I did my hair the way he liked it and kept telling myself, this is going to be a good night. He's just been stressed. Tonight will feel like us again. He texted last minute to say he'd meet me there. Something about work. I arrived early, my parents already seated. They smiled, fussed over my appearance, handed me a gift bag. My mother commented on my lipstick needing a touch-up. My dad gave me a stiff one-armed hug and said I looked put together. The usual. Lana wasn't there yet. I wasn't surprised. She never arrived on time. That way everyone noticed when she did. I kept checking my phone. No messages from Drew. Just silence. My stomach started doing little flips. And then she walked in. Lana. In a tight red dress, glowing with self-satisfaction. Laughing too loudly. Strutting like she owned the place. But it wasn't just her. Drew walked in behind her. He held the door, hand resting lightly on the small of her back. My heart stopped. They were too close. Too familiar. Too synchronized. Like people who'd shared more than just a dinner table. Lana came straight over and kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. Sorry I'm late, she chirped. Ran into Drew outside. Total coincidence. Drew sat beside me and gave me a weak smile. Happy birthday, he said, barely meeting my eyes. I nodded, numb. My throat felt tight. I couldn't even form the words to respond. The dinner passed in a blur. My parents chatted about a recent cruise. Lana made herself the center of attention again. Drew said almost nothing. I tried to hold his hand under the table. He flinched, then forced a smile. His hand was cold. Then just before dessert, as the waiter lit the candle on the small chocolate torte I'd ordered, Lana stood up. I actually have an announcement, she said brightly, one hand resting on her stomach in a theatrical gesture. I didn't want to steal the spotlight, but I'm pregnant. Everyone gasped. And then she added the next part with a little smile. And Drew's the father. My world cracked. The noise in the restaurant faded, like someone had turned down the volume on everything except the sound of my own breathing. I stared at her. At him. Drew didn't speak. He didn't deny it. He just looked at the table. My mom gasped. My dad froze mid-toast. Lana kept smiling. I stood up slowly. The chair scraped against the tile, loud and awkward. I need a minute, I said, and walked toward the restroom, my legs shaky beneath me. Inside the stall, I expected to fall apart. But I didn't. Instead, something settled inside me. Not peace. Not anger. Something sharper. Clarity. When I came back to the table, they were talking about baby names. As if nothing had happened. I sat down, picked up my fork and said calmly, "Thanks for the announcement, Lana. But before we get too excited, there's something I think you should all know." She blinked at me, confused. So did Drew. My mom looked like she wanted to disappear into the upholstery of her chair. And my dad just stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. Everyone froze, waiting for me to unravel. But I didn't. I wasn't crying. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't flipping over the table like some scene in a drama. I just calmly placed my fork down and reached into my bag. For weeks, I'd carried the envelope with me. Just in case. I wasn't sure when I'd use it, if I'd ever have the nerve. But now, with Lana beaming and Drew avoiding my eyes, I knew. This was the moment. I slid the envelope across the table, right in front of Drew. "You might want to explain this before you start planning nursery themes." He looked down at the envelope like it might bite him. Slowly, with hands that had once held mine so gently, he opened it. Inside was a printout of a medical report. His name was on it, clear as day. Vasectomy. Completed over 2 years ago. I saw it hit him. His expression shifted, confusion, realization, then panic. His mouth opened but no sound came out. Lana leaned forward trying to see the paper. What is that? I didn't answer her. I turned to Drew instead. Why don't you tell them? Or should I? He swallowed hard. Ray. Tell them. He looked at my parents. 2 years ago I had a vasectomy. We agreed we weren't ready for kids. I never told Lana. Lana recoiled. What do you mean? That can't be right. That's not possible. It's possible, I said flatly. I was there. I brought him home from the appointment. Sat with him while he watched 2 straight hours of baseball and held a bag of frozen peas to his lap. I remember it vividly. Lana's face had gone pale. You're lying, she said. You faked that. This isn't real. You can call the clinic. Sacred Oaks. Dr. Brannon performed it. You can check the dates, the signature, the recovery notes. It's all there. My mom finally spoke, her voice shaking. Are you saying? I'm saying that if Lana is really pregnant, I said. The father isn't Drew. The table went completely silent. Drew's shoulders collapsed. He looked like someone had taken the last bit of air out of him. Lana was staring at me, but I couldn't tell if she was angry, terrified, or both. My dad finally picked up the report and skimmed it. He said nothing, just placed it back on the table and reached for his wine glass with trembling fingers. I don't understand, Lana whispered. I didn't. But I knew she did. She just didn't think I'd ever find out. She thought she was ahead of the game, playing some twisted version of chess where she always won. Only this time she played herself. I leaned back in my chair, suddenly exhausted. It's amazing, I said softly. How the 2 people I should have been able to trust the most managed to betray me in the same breath. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, Drew muttered. It just happened. You didn't trip and fall into my sister, Drew, I snapped. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a choice. Over and over again. I'm sorry, he whispered. You're sorry you got caught. Lana looked like she might cry. She opened her mouth again, but I raised a hand to stop her. Save it. I stood up. I'm done with both of you. My mother stood up too, flustered. Rachel, maybe we should all take a moment, calm down, talk about this somewhere else. No, Mom. We're not sweeping this under the rug. We're not doing the family counseling song and dance. They humiliated me. On my birthday. In public. But there's a baby, she whispered. I turned to Lana. Yeah, a baby you tried to pass off as my husband's. A baby you used to steal something else that belonged to me. I didn't steal him, she said defensively. He came to me. After you put yourself in front of him enough times, I'm sure. But it doesn't matter. You can keep each other. You deserve what's coming. Then I grabbed my bag. As I stepped away from the table, Drew rose like he was going to follow me. Don't, I said, loud enough to stop him in place. Just don't. I walked out of the restaurant without looking back. I didn't hear if they followed. I didn't care. Outside, the evening air hit me like a wave. I paused on the sidewalk, letting myself breathe, letting the tension start to unravel just a little. And then I walked to the corner, hailed a rideshare, and left that part of my life sitting at a table full of lies and ruined dessert. That night I checked into a hotel. I couldn't bear the thought of going back to the house, not yet. It felt like everything there was contaminated. I lay in the unfamiliar bed and stared at the ceiling, the envelope still in my purse, now creased and curled at the edges. My phone buzzed. Messages from Drew. From Lana. From my mom. I didn't read any of them. Instead, I texted one person. My lawyer. We'd spoken briefly a few months earlier when I first suspected something wasn't right. She told me to call her when I was ready. I was ready. The next day we met in her office. Her name was Claire Hastings, and she was calm, professional, and terrifyingly efficient. I've got everything documented, I said. Phone logs, emails, bank transfers, even photos. I want to file immediately. Claire nodded. Let's begin. The divorce process moved fast because I wanted it to. I made copies of every financial record, changed the locks on the studio, removed Drew's name from everything I legally could. I froze our joint accounts, canceled shared subscriptions, and forwarded mail. Each step made me feel a little less numb and a little more like myself again. Drew tried to reach out again. Dozens of messages. Apologies. Excuses. Please. I didn't reply. Lana sent me one long message 3 days after the dinner. It was filled with half apologies and twisted explanations. I didn't mean to hurt you, she wrote. I always wanted what you had. I stared at those words for a long time. I always wanted what you had. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she didn't get away with it. I deleted the message and blocked her number. The weeks that followed were brutal and beautiful all at once. I moved out of the house and into a friend's spare bedroom. I cried until I couldn't anymore. I worked longer hours than I should have. I threw myself into routines just to have something to control. But with every passing day, I felt stronger. I started sleeping better, eating without feeling sick, laughing again quietly at first and then louder. I found pieces of myself that I hadn't seen in years. And for the first time in a long time, I realized I was going to be okay. I didn't need Drew. I didn't need Lana. And I certainly didn't need their explanations. The day the movers came, I didn't cry. I thought I might. I thought seeing the last box packed, the dresser we'd picked together being loaded into a truck, or the quiet in the hallway of what used to be our home might break me. But instead I felt clear. Like I was finally standing in a space where I could breathe again. I didn't take everything. Just what was mine: my clothes, books, files, a few things my grandmother left me. I left the expensive coffee machine Drew liked, the couch Lana used to lounge on when she visited, the art pieces he insisted on buying during our honeymoon. They didn't matter anymore. They didn't feel like mine. Not really. I left his wedding ring on the nightstand. I taped a note to it. Claire will contact you. He tried to stop by that night. My friend Maddie, who I was staying with, called me at work. He's on the porch. Been pacing for 20 minutes. Want me to call the cops? No. He'll leave. Let him wear himself out. And he did. Eventually. The next week he tried to show up again. This time he shouted from the front step. You can't even talk to me now? We were married, Rachel. We had a life. I stayed inside, holding a mug of tea with both hands, staring at the wall behind Maddie's kitchen table. We did have a life, I murmured. But you set it on fire. When he left, I felt nothing. Just silence. A week after that, Lana called from a blocked number. I answered before I realized it was her. Ray, she said quietly. Her voice sounded small. Please don't hang up. I didn't say anything. I don't know what to do. You should have thought about that before all of this. I know. I was stupid. I don't even know what I was thinking. He won't talk to me now. I'm alone. I could feel the weight behind her words. She wasn't telling me she was sorry. She was telling me she regretted being left behind. You're not alone, I said. You're pregnant. There was a long pause. I don't even know if I want to keep it, she whispered. That's your decision. Don't you care at all? I closed my eyes. I care that the person who was supposed to have my back chose to destroy everything good in my life. That I had to spend my birthday watching my marriage fall apart in front of my parents and strangers. That I've spent weeks scraping myself off the ground while you played victim. That's what I care about. I just wanted what you had. No, I said, finally letting my voice rise. You didn't want what I had. You wanted what you thought it looked like. You never cared what it took to build or maintain it. You only ever cared that someone else wanted it. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Over and over again. She didn't argue. She just sighed. I miss you. You missed the version of me that didn't stand up for herself. She didn't respond. I have to go. I hung up and stared at the phone until it dimmed. That night, Maddie poured me a glass of wine and sat across from me on the couch. You good? I nodded. I think I'm just tired of being the person who always forgives first. You don't owe her anything. I know. And I did. Finally. That weekend I started looking for apartments. Somewhere small, clean, quiet. I wanted a space that didn't come with ghosts. I signed a lease 2 weeks later. 1 bedroom, 2nd floor, hardwood floors and sunlight in the mornings. I bought a new couch, painted the walls a warm green, and chose bedding that had nothing to do with anyone else's taste but mine. For the first time in years, my space felt like mine. Claire kept me updated on the legal process. Drew was dragging his feet, refusing to sign some of the documents, trying to negotiate what was already in our prenup. He thinks you'll cave, Claire said. He's playing the long game. He doesn't know me anymore, I replied. I'm not caving. And I didn't. Instead, I put my head down at work. I took on new projects, stayed late, helped my team hit deadlines no one thought we could. It wasn't about escaping. It was about proving to myself that I still had something steady beneath the rubble. A few people asked questions. My coworkers noticed the ring was gone. I didn't offer much. Just said things changed, and left it there. Except David from HR. He was gentle about it. Left small notes on my desk some mornings. You're doing great. One step at a time. Hang in there. At first I brushed them off, but over time I started to look forward to them. They reminded me that not everyone disappears when things get hard. 3 weeks after I moved in, Lana showed up at my door. I opened it without checking the peephole and froze. She looked worn. Her makeup was smudged, her clothes too loose, her hair pulled back in a sloppy bun. She wasn't smiling. I didn't say anything. I didn't know where else to go, she said. That's not true. She swallowed. Okay. I didn't want to go anywhere else. What do you want, Lana? Just 5 minutes. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She sat on the edge of my couch, arms folded around her stomach like a shield. I got the paternity results, she said, eyes down. It's not Drew. I didn't say anything. It's a guy I was seeing before. A married guy. He's married. Or was. His wife found out. Left him. He's not speaking to me. I nodded slowly. And you thought I'd want to hear about this because I don't have anyone else. You had me, I said. Until you didn't care what that meant. She winced. I'm not asking you to forget everything, she said. Or forgive me. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For real. Not in a text. Not in some weird defensive way. Just, I'm sorry. I watched her for a while. I believe you. She looked up surprised. You do. Yes. But that doesn't mean we go back to normal. I know. You broke something, Lana. A lot of things. And I can't fix all of that just because you're scared now. I'm trying, she said. I've started therapy. I want to do better for the baby. Good. She nodded. I should go. At the door she turned back. You look happier, you know. Lighter. I am. When she left, I stood in the middle of my apartment and let myself feel all of it. The sadness. The loss. The strange relief. It was all still there, but it wasn't crushing me anymore. Drew's last attempt came a week later. He sent a long email. Apologies. Regrets. Memories. He said he missed us. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Claire and asked her to finalize everything. The next day she called. He signed. It's done. I exhaled slow and deep. It was over. The first morning I woke up after the divorce papers were finalized, I didn't feel any different at first. The sun came in through the same window. My favorite coffee mug was where I'd left it. The city moved outside like it always had. But when I sat down at my tiny dining table and opened my laptop, something clicked into place. There was nothing left to wait for. No unread messages from him. No legal forms pending. No more chances for him to explain or shift blame or reach back into a life he burned down. I was free. I spent that Saturday cleaning, really cleaning. I rearranged the furniture again just slightly, until the space felt like it flowed better. I put up new prints on the wall, took down a few things that reminded me of before. I even bought a new set of bedsheets, soft and light gray, the kind Drew would have said were too plain. I liked them. That afternoon, I walked to the bookstore a few blocks down and bought myself a new journal. I hadn't kept one in years. Not since college. But now it felt like I needed a space to put everything that didn't have anywhere else to land. The first page was hard. But eventually the words came. This isn't the life I planned, but maybe it's the one I needed. 2 weeks later I got a letter in the mail from Lana. A real letter. Not a text. Not an email. It was shaky, uneven, like she'd rewritten it several times before mailing the final draft. She said she'd started therapy, that she was trying to understand why she'd always felt the need to compete, to win even when there was no race. She told me she knew there was no excuse for what she did, and that she wasn't asking for forgiveness, but she hoped someday I might want to know her again. She also said she was naming the baby Leo. He'd been born the week before. A boy with her chin and, according to our mom, our grandfather's dimples. I folded the letter and left it on my nightstand. I wasn't ready to respond, but I didn't throw it away. The next time my mom called, she didn't try to guilt me into anything. She just said, "Jessica's doing better. The baby's healthy. I thought you'd want to know." "I'm glad," I said. It was strange how short the conversation was. There was no push. No, you need to be there. Just facts. And that was fine by me. In the background of all this, something else was quietly growing. David. First, it was just coffee in the mornings. Then a shared project at work. Then a few walks after hours talking about everything and nothing. He never pushed. Never asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. He just showed up consistently. One Thursday, he stopped by my desk with 2 tickets to a local gallery opening. "No pressure," he said. "But I thought you might enjoy it. I've seen your work. You have good taste." I looked at the envelope in his hand, then back at him. "All right," I said. "Let's go." It wasn't a date exactly, but it wasn't not one either. We walked through rooms full of abstract shapes and color splashes, laughing quietly at the pieces we didn't understand. He didn't make it about anything more than what it was. Just a nice evening surrounded by creativity, with someone who wasn't trying to fix me or figure me out. At the end of the night, he walked me to my door. "Thank you," I said. "I needed that." He smiled. So did I. He didn't try to kiss me, just gave a small wave and left. That alone made me like him more. A few days later, I visited Lana. I don't know what made me go. Maybe it was the letter. Maybe it was the silence that followed. Maybe it was knowing that we were the only 2 people who really knew the full shape of what had happened, and we were both sitting in the ruins of it. She looked surprised to see me. Her hair was tied up messily, and she looked tired in a way I'd never seen her before. But she opened the door and let me in. Leo was asleep in a little bassinet by the window. "He's small," I said. She nodded. "Yeah, but loud." I sat down on the edge of the couch. "You doing okay?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Better. Not great, but better." There was a long pause. "I meant what I wrote," she said finally. "I'm not asking for anything. I want to be better. For him." I looked at her, really looked at her. The bravado was gone. The entitlement. The sharp edge she always carried like armor. And for the first time in our adult lives, I saw her as just human. "Then start with this," I said. "Tell him the truth. Be honest. Be better." She nodded. Before I left, she asked, "Would you ever consider being part of his life?" "Not now, but maybe later." I didn't answer right away. Then I looked at the sleeping baby, at his tiny hand curled up near his cheek, at the way his breath moved his chest like the tide. "Maybe," I said, and I meant it.